What would happen if Russia invaded an EU nation? As we all know, Russia recently invaded Ukraine, and it's been over a year since the war began. It was thought that the Russian military was one of the most powerful militaries in the world. But as we've seen so far, they have performed poorly against Ukraine. In fact, many military experts argue that the Ukrainian military is the most powerful military in the world right now due to their successful defense of their nation. However, some say that the Russian military will become more powerful in the coming years. So what would happen if Russia invaded an EU nation in 2025? Who would win? The Russian military or the NATO alliance? In this video, we will take a look at both sides and see who would likely come out on top in a war in 2025. First, we will start with the Russian military. Russia has an estimated 900,000 active soldiers in their military today, and by 2025, this number should be around 800,000 active soldiers. They also have around 2 million soldiers in their reserve force. Russia has been adding lots of new military equipment and weapons over the past few years. In 2023, they added around 450 tanks, 1,500 artillery systems, 70 air defense systems, 85 aircraft, and 135 helicopters. They plan to add even more military equipment in the upcoming years. Over the next 2 years, Russia plans to add another 700 tanks, 1,000 artillery systems, 10 air defense systems, 30 aircraft, and 60 helicopters. Some of these vehicles include the T-90ME tanks, the Ka-52 helicopters, and the Tor M2 short-range surface-to-air missile system. On top of this, Russia has been focusing on developing hypersonic weapons. They are currently producing the Ka-47ME2 Kinzhal hypersonic missile, which has a top over 10 times the speed of sound. This missile is very difficult to intercept. In fact, current Western anti-missile systems cannot intercept missiles traveling this fast. So if the Russian military can produce large quantities of these missiles by 2025, this will make them a serious threat to the Western nations. Along with this, Russia has produced the world's largest nuke ever, which is the Satan II missile. It has a range of 18,000 kilometers and can carry 16 nuclear warheads. It's safe to say that if this missile was used, it would wipe out any city in Europe. Now let's take a look at the NATO alliance. The United States has around 1.4 million active soldiers with around 800,000 in the reserve force. The US has been modernizing their equipment and weapons over the past few years. For example, the US recently introduced the Mobile Protected Firepower System, which combines a 155mm howitzer with a 25-ton vehicle. This allows the artillery unit to move much faster through the battlefield and set up in a shorter amount of time. Along with this, they have been introducing lots of new drones into their military. For example, the MQ-9 Reaper drone. These drones can carry out airstrikes, but they can also gather intelligence on enemy forces. Another new weapon being introduced into the US military is the High Mobility Artillery Rocket System. This rocket launcher can fire over 40 miles and is very mobile, allowing the artillery units to move quickly through the battlefield. Along with this, the US has recently started to send Abrams tanks to Ukraine. So it's likely they will continue sending these tanks to Ukraine for the foreseeable future. On top of this, the US has recently invested $800 billion into the development of new hypersonic weapons. So it's likely they will have new hypersonic missiles available for the military by 2025. Unlike Russia, the US hasn't been testing these missiles very often. Only 2 test launches have been done so far, and both of them failed. But once the US has developed reliable hypersonic missiles, it will add a huge advantage to their military. So who would likely win if Russia invaded an EU nation in 2025? It's hard to say for sure. The US and NATO have a larger military, and they also have more money than Russia. But Russia has a lot of new advanced weaponry, including hypersonic missiles. If Russia didn't use their hypersonic missiles, then NATO would likely come out on top. But if Russia did use their hypersonic missiles, then it could be enough to destroy some major cities in Europe. Even though NATO would likely prevail in the end, Russia could cause massive damage in the process.